Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Indira Jeffrey, and I am the program manager for DreamBuilder in the US. Today, we are very happy because we have Luis Vidal. He is a Thunderbird alumni and Christian Aguirre from Mexico. He is streaming from Mexico, and we will talk about the pros and cons of owning a franchise. Well, DreamBuilder is a women's business creator. It is a platform free online to everyone. And through 13 modules, we teach business topics. And at the end of the 13 modules, you will have a business plan. The business plan is generated from the same platform. And I will be able to tell you more about the benefits of DreamBuilder next week on Wednesday, next Wednesday. So please stay tuned and join us next Wednesday as well. I'm going to give you some information about Christian and Luis. And I am going to introduce first Luis. He, as I said, he is a Thunderbird alumni. He is entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur. He owns several businesses, and one of them is CaliMex. Also, he is has experience in hotels. And Christian, he is well, from Mexico, but he also has several businesses in the US. And also he is a partner for CaliMex. He owns a business, a cricket business. He will tell you more about it. And with no further ado, please welcome Luis Vidal and Christian Aguirre, our speakers of today's event.
Well, good morning.
Take it over, Christian. Oh.
Good morning.
Thank you, Indira. Good morning.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Indira.
So glad and happy to be here joining you. I will let Luis start with the presentation, and I'll be just helping you out.
Sounds good. Well, it's great to be here with DreamBuilder, Indira, and team. So we really appreciate the opportunity, first and foremost. Let me share my screen here. Hang on one second. So we can get the presentation started. Here we go. All right, can everybody see the presentation?
Yes.
Yes?
Now we can.
Okay, perfect. So today, this morning, our brief chat will be about our humble experiences in the franchise world. As Indira mentioned, Christian and I actually we're both from Mexico. However, I was raised in the US. And we have probably about 5 years now worth of experience in the franchise industry. But this is what today's topic will be. Obviously, we don't consider ourselves experts just yet, but we do have some years of experience that we can sort of relay. We'll talk about, you know, our experiences in terms of the good stuff, the bad stuff, and everything else in between. So feel free to ask any questions in the chat. We'd be happy to answer them. I know there will be a Q&A session afterwards, but a little bit about our story. I'll introduce myself and then I'll allow Christian to do the same. As Indira mentioned, I am a Thunderbird alum. I was fortunate enough to be there earlier this decade. I graduated in 2013 from the full-time MBA program. And actually Thunderbird was the origin of us getting involved with the CaliBurger project. There was an alum from 1998, I believe, another Thunderbird alum that was involved in the origins of CaliBurger in 2011. Long story short, we met at an alumni event and connected there. And then a few years later, we were able to, which we'll talk about here in a bit, we were able to negotiate a deal that allowed Christian and I and some other partners to take the brand down to Mexico. But short of it is, I was born in Mexico, raised in the U.S. Have most of my jobs, career has in one way or another been had international business focus, particularly in Mexico and Latin America. Christian, would you like to introduce yourself briefly?
Thank you, Luis. Yes, hello, everybody. I'm Christian Aguirre. I'm from Hermosillo, Mexico, located just around 360 miles to the south of Phoenix, Arizona. We are your neighbors here in Sonora. And I've been involved with international business for quite a while. I used to work at a technological university here in Sonora, where I was in charge of international affairs and helping our alumni study abroad. Also involved in business incubation for many, many years. And back in 2016, well, Luis and I, we've been friends for a long, long time, more than 20 years. And back in 2016, I was invited into this great opportunity by Luis. And it's been quite a journey. It's been an adventure, getting involved with CaliBurger, learning all about it. I'm a big fan of hamburgers, so it's been wonderful. It's been learning and learning and learning, a process very, very interesting. And also been involved in other types of projects. I'm the executive director in Hermosillo for Global Chamber, which has its headquarters in Phoenix, Arizona. And we are a chamber that has presence all around the world. Also, I'm involved in other types of projects as import-export projects. I'm involved with other companies in Phoenix, Arizona, and other places in the US. So thank you, Luis.
Absolutely, thank you, Christian. So a little bit about us. So let's talk. What today's conversation will be centered around. Well, we gave you a little bit about our story. We'll dive deeper into our positive experiences around franchising. Sort of the challenges that we've encountered, maybe some of the bad stuff that's involved with franchising. Also, some of the common errors that we have experienced, that we've learned from, and that we've hopefully grown from as well. Because let's face it, mistakes do happen. And also, we will end the conversation with managing during stressful times, which we can, I'm sure, certainly all agree that globally we are experiencing right now. Particularly in Mexico, but we'll sort of expand a little bit on what we're doing to adapt and to stay viable in this ever-changing and shifting market. So, these images are just the presentation is centered around our experience, obviously, with the CaliBurger brand. But let's talk about what CaliBurger is first and foremost, and why did we choose to take it to Latin America. So CaliBurger was born in 2011 by an American named John Miller from California, who happened to be working in China through the late, around 2009, 10, 11 timeframe. And he would travel between LA and Shanghai, and he would just see an opportunity for a California style better burger concept that just didn't exist in China at that point, and is particularly in Shanghai. So there's quite an interesting story about the origins of CaliBurger and a competitor brand with In-N-Out. But I could talk for hours about that. But anyway, we'll say that for another time. But anyway, CaliBurger was born in 2011 in Shanghai. From there, it grew throughout Asia, Southeast Asia particularly. Then a company out of the Middle East bought the franchise rights for the Middle East, so it went to the Middle East. And finally, in 2015, it came to the US with the store opening in California and a few stores in the Seattle area. And it jumped over to the East Coast, Washington, D.C., Maryland, and now Florida area, where stores are currently open. So once it came over to the U.S., that's when 2015, late 2015, that's when I had, through Thunderbird, I had been insisting since I met Jamie, a Thunderbird alum from '98, that this concept would do well in Mexico. Why? Because we recognized that there was a niche in the fast casual market that wasn't filled, and that was for a premium, better burger, California style burger. It just did not exist in Mexico anywhere. Yes, the major competitors in terms of McDonald's, Burger King, and such had established presence, but we felt that there was a need for this product that just wasn't being met in Mexico. Moreover, being dual citizen and seeing, friends and family come over from Mexico, and sort of experiencing this product here in the US, and just raving about it, we knew that, we were onto something. So we decided in 2016 to go through a heavy due diligence process. We visited franchises, we did market studies, we learned that the fast casual, fast food market in Latin America was exploding, was projected to explode within the next 5 years, which that has come to fruition. So we took a chance, we took a bet after our due diligence and decided, hey, let's try to negotiate a deal. And we ended up securing the master franchise rights for Mexico for the CaliBurger brand. Lucky for us that the brand was still relatively young and unknown on a global scale, although at that point I believe they had maybe 20, 25 stores open throughout the world. We're still relatively unknown, so it was kind of one of those being at the right place at the right time, because two guys raised a little capital, but without the necessary infrastructure. We just sold them on our experience, on our expertise, on our connections, that we could be able to make this a reality in Mexico. So that's sort of a bit about the past and why we decided to take the franchise down to Mexico. And subsequently to acquiring the rights to Mexico, we negotiated a deal to acquire the rights for 21 other Latin American countries, which includes all of Central America and all of South America. So we feel very fortunate about that. We still have yet to grow into those other markets, but we are working on that actively. So what are we doing now? We opened up our first store in Puebla, Mexico in January of 2018. That was our Mexico flagship store, complete with a drive-through, lots of entertainment, video walls and such. And since then, we've essentially been establishing the brand, trying to gain market share, and continuing to invest and reinvest in the brand, and all in hopes of growing the brand. So 2018, actually, let me back up a little bit. We ended up partnering with professional restaurant operations group out of Mexico as well. So they became our partners in the master franchise, and they helped us bring this concept to fruition. And it's something that we'll talk about here shortly, the importance of securing a trusted partner, especially when you go into a new market, or a market that you don't necessarily have any presence in. It's of crucial importance to secure a bridge partner, and have them, rely on their expertise and their resources to bring the concept into fruition. So since 2018, we opened a total of 7 stores. However, 2 of those stores have closed this year, unfortunately. There were sub franchises. Just this whole shifting market unfortunately took those 2 stores away, but we are in the process of reopening them, and we will get into that a little bit later. But our plans for the future are to expand into Central America, to expand into South America, and truly make this a viable brand throughout the world, but particularly through Latin America. So let me go on to the next slide. Let's talk a little bit about some of the good things that we've experienced when it comes to franchising. So first and foremost, at least in my personal case, as Indira said earlier, I was involved in hotel franchising prior to this. However, I was an employee at another company. It was a global hotel franchisor. So that's kind of where I got my feet wet when it comes in terms of franchising. I love the model. I love the aspect of franchising and collecting royalties and whatnot. So that's something that franchises can really offer, is a career change, a refresh in life, basically. And also there's some inherent benefits when it comes to franchises in terms of potentially minimal startup costs, proven business systems that you as a business owner can rely upon. So you don't necessarily have to reinvent the wheel. You take a concept that is working or that you feel could work in a certain market, and you rely on the master franchisor's expertise to help you make that business viable, profitable, and have positive revenue streams. So another good aspect is minimizing risks compared to, for example, starting up a business from scratch, starting up a new concept, new name, new everything, new brand. The risks are minimized because somebody else has already proven out the concept. The proof of concept is there with existing franchises. One of the things that we would recommend is actually visit existing franchisees, speak with them, get a feel for their experience with the business, with the franchisors, with the brand owners and such. So along those lines, a good master franchisor will offer support and training and guidance and help you along the way. So those are some of the good aspects about franchising. Some more is obviously you can buy into a brand that already has good brand recognition. So, typically franchises are already an established brand. People know, the markets know what the brand is. In our case, however, was a little bit different because, as I said, CaliBurger is still a relatively unknown brand. It was not existent in Mexico at all. So we had to, we were cognizant of that and had to really invest in marketing and getting the name of the brand out there, building a customer base, building repeat business, and succeeding at that. So that's something that we didn't necessarily have the advantage of, but we felt that the brand itself, had some goodwill attached to it and had some popularity in other markets. So we felt it wouldn't be that much of a challenge in order to create a viable market in Mexico. So something, another positive is you as a business owner, there's several options to grow. I mean, if you buy into a franchise, typically you can negotiate with your master franchisor either an area development deal or some way to scale your business. And so you wouldn't necessarily be stuck with one unit, one service, and such. In our case, Christian and I, we participate at the master franchise level in Mexico. And we also turned around and invested in our own franchise as well. So we are master franchisors in Mexico and Latin America. And we also own a sub-franchise, a unit all to ourselves. So we're seeing both sides of the coin here. We in terms of scalability, that's something that we're able to negotiate. So we see, we collect royalties from a sub-franchisee, and we also pay royalties as a sub-franchisee. So the opportunity for multiple revenue streams through multiple units and multiple ventures can be something that is a positive for franchising. Something that we also took advantage of was existing supply chain and vendor list. Luckily for our product, we don't need to import anything into Mexico. And for the foreseeable future, it seems to be that way in other Latin American markets as well. We studied the menu before we negotiated the deal, and we saw that the items were easily sourceable in most Latin American countries. So our partners, our restaurant operator partners, already had the existing supply chain. We just made sure that all our suppliers were vetted and all of our products met the standards that of the CaliBurger corporate brand. And so we were fortunate in terms of taking advantage of those types of things. But first and foremost is the ability to work for yourself. I mean, that's something that can be said that not everybody, but a lot of people do aspire to. And that's something certainly that Christian and I aspired to. It's still that just because we work for ourselves does not mean that we don't work hard, because it has been thus far. I mean, even though we've been involved for 5 years, it's still been quite a bumpy road, filled with challenges, filled with obstacles. But nonetheless, at the end of the day, I can say that we're satisfied with where this is going and the potential benefits that it offers. So I know I've spoken a lot. Christian, do you want to add anything that I missed?
Well, I mean, when you mentioned the part of the bumpy road, it was, I remember some things that happened along the way, exactly, like how long and how many conversations did we have, how many meetings were there necessary, to get the deal inked back in October 2016. And also part of the bumpy road was how long it took us, how many trips to Mexico City, how many trips to Puebla, how many things we had to do, conversations, phone calls, hours and hours dedicating to getting, getting closer to potential investors or potential partners, potential allies. And it was quite a journey. So it was, we started approximately with the project in March 2016. Then it took us, as I mentioned, October 2016 to ink Mexico. Then by May 2017, we finally were able to find our partners. And it was until a few months later that also we formalized our relationship with them, but not before having, as I mentioned, a lot of trips, a lot of phone calls. We did a special trip to Mexico City back in February 2017, where we had some meetings with people interested in the project, but also along the way, you find some sharks, sharks that really want to take a big bite out of the project. So you got to be careful on that. You got to protect your interests. You got to protect your project, and value it. Value yourself. Value the project.
Yeah, there was certain instances where had we turned left instead of right, we probably would have lost this, right?
Totally. We had some close calls.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's part of the fun at the end of the day, right? So I think that's a good segue into, well, obviously this was us a few hours before opening the first day. Fortunate we had probably like—
By the way, I took the picture.
Yes, Christian was taking the picture. But outside of this picture, we had we'd done enough marketing where we had a line probably like 2 football fields long of people waiting to enter, which was very rewarding to see. So that was us the first day. But with all that said, it's not just all fun and games. There's a lot of challenges, as we were mentioning, that allows that it's involved intrinsic in any franchising or any business venture. So some of the challenges, and not just particular to CaliBurger, but or our experiences, but inherent in the franchising world is on the other side of the coin, the initial investment, the startup costs, the initial franchise fees, those can add up. And depending on the life or the existence of the brand, if it's a well-established brand, typically they're higher, and you get into a net worth, proving your net worth types of things, having a certain amount of liquidity available at any time, in addition to paying for, real estate expenses, build out expenses, leases, franchise fees. So certain brands obviously are much harder to get into, or just offering a higher initial investment point. So that's something that can be a con or a challenge. Of course, there's also royalty payments because you're essentially running your own business, but it's somebody else's brand, and because you're running a business that's somebody else's brand, you have to pay for it. So there's typically a monthly royalty fee that is negotiable that has to be paid. And that's how, the businesses scale as franchisors. But as franchisee, it's something that it's a reality of franchising, is paying a royalty for allowing you to use their brand. There's also, there could be some rigidity when it comes to innovation. You typically have to adhere to existing business models and systems, product offerings, and it can be sometimes difficult to innovate when you're operating within the realms of an existing brand. Typically, any innovation comes from the top down, and new product offerings, for example, might be developed somewhere. In our case, we were fortunate because because the brand was so young and we were taking it into an emerging market. We were able to localize somewhat the brand offerings. Obviously, we have a standard to adhere to, but the Mexican palate versus the Asian palate, the U.S. palate is somewhat different. So we were allowed some leeway in terms of localizing our product offering.
Another example there on some of the challenges were So most of the process when getting our suppliers for the products, yes, it was 90%. It went really good, but in other cases, we had a little bit of a struggle with potatoes, for example, and we had different varieties that grew in Puebla and different varieties that grew in Sonora, and it was a different variety from the one that grows, for example, in the United States and Canada. So those little things where you do tests and tests and tests with your sourcing, and in the end, we got really good results, and actually we got some very good comments from our chief of operations at CaliBurger that the price we were able to find were the best in all the CaliBurgers in the world. So we were very happy about it.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. That was a challenge that turned into something positive. But when you come across these challenges, you get your team together, as we did in this picture here. And this was a few days before we opened, and we were addressing the challenges when it comes to in terms of operating the restaurant. So you just circle around, huddle up, and you find a solution. We continually do that, and I'm sure any other business is the same. Let's see. So in our case, particularly, obviously, we aren't day-to-day in the restaurants themselves. We're more of leading the growth vision for the brand. So we have to count on and rely a trusted operations partner. And obviously, there's transparency involved, and we can manage our investment from afar, which is good, but it definitely presents a challenge because obviously we aren't there managing the day-to-day operations. So it's definitely something that is very important, is to come across or hire a trusted operations partner. Obviously, do a lot of vetting, and through experience, you'll know, after a certain amount of time if they're good or not, or if you've obviously studied their past experiences and whatnot. So,
and also rely a lot on technology, because we have an app that informs us how the stores are doing every day. So that's pretty important, to know the day-by-day operations, get also weekly reports and all the information necessary to know which way the business is heading.
Absolutely. Yeah, good point, Christian. So with every challenge, obviously, leads to mistakes. We're all human. We all make mistakes. Mistakes are inherent in business and in life. We put this picture here because it was a product that we developed. It was a hamburger with Doritos. On paper, it sounded good. In execution, probably not so good. So we considered it a limited time offer product, but we learned from it, obviously. After focus group, we thought it would test well, but when it came time to executing in the market, it sort of flopped. But that's fine, because these are experiences that we as a business owner, or you as a franchisee, learn from, obviously. So let's jump into that. What are some common errors when it comes to franchising? There's potential to get really excited about a brand and sort of limit your scope of due diligence. We would highly recommend against that, because very important to sort of really get to know what the brand is, get into the DNA of the brand, understand the why does it exist, and also speak to existing franchisees. They're a great source of information, typically unbiased, obviously, separated from the master franchisor, so you can get some real-time, real information. So do your due diligence, visit other franchises, do some traveling, and do your market analysis, and make sure that it's something that you feel can be a viable business wherever you decide to set up. Also, we don't do this alone. We have partnerships when it comes to suppliers, when it comes to operations teams, when even our master franchisor, we consider them our partners. So it's really important, because as we mentioned along the way, there were some groups or some people that wanted to be our partners, and through the vetting process, we thought that it would be disadvantageous to partner up with them. So where we started to go down a path, and we shortly thereafter found that it was riddled with problems, or this potential partner was, for example, a very litigious person. We decided to sever ties immediately. And thankfully we did. We'd probably be in a different boat right now. It's very important to maintain oversight of your supply chain and make sure that suppliers are viable, especially in this market right now, in this economy. There are a lot of businesses that are just plain and simple going out of business. So what if you rely on one of those for an essential service or essential product within your product offering? It's tough. You have to find alternatives, you know, and sometimes you have to scramble for those. So that's something that can be a mistake that has to be definitely controlled. Also, there could be some transparency issues with your master franchisor. It's always a best practice to be as transparent as possible and to demand transparency as well, because just like any relationship, you know, let's just be honest, tell the truth. What's the real state of the business? What's going on at the corporate level? What's going on at the sub-franchisee level? It's always good to know. That way you can all grow together. And in terms of managing up, so just like as if you know, if I were an employee, if I wanted to affect any sort of change, I would speak to my manager or superior and you know, plead my case as to what my opinion is in terms of doing things different or improving a certain service or product. Same thing with franchising. If you as a business locally experience something where you think it could have a positive effect somewhere else, it's always good to tell the franchisor about that, because in our case, for example, the potatoes, that example that Christian mentioned, that's something that affected change throughout the whole franchise system. So had we just kept that to ourselves, it might have not been available in other parts of the franchise system. It's also very important to mind any sort of contractual obligations, whether that be you know, multiple unit development deals, timeframes, menu options, product offering standards, all that sort of stuff is very important, because it's very easy in the day-to-day shuffle to overlook some minutia. But if that happens, you know, more than one time, you could very well see yourself in breach of contract easily. So it's very important to maintain, to stay on top of your contractual obligations with suppliers, with your franchisor. And also going back to the partnerships, I mean, it's very easy to sort of isolate and say, you know, I'm running a business, I can do this on my own. No, let's rely on our suppliers, let's rely on our franchisor in order to, you know, a rising tide floats all boats type of mentality. And something that is easy to do is get short-sighted and not, you know, see the big picture in terms of a growth plan or even an exit strategy. Say, you know, yes, I'm happy, I'm running my franchise now, but what about, you know, what do I want, where do I see myself, or where do I see our partnership in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years? What do I want to do with this? How do I want my life to look in terms of this business in X amount of years in the future? Yes, you know, it's when you're experiencing the newness of the business and you're, you know, running on all cylinders, it's easy to overlook what your exit strategy will be, or even if you have one, you know, maybe something that you want to leave as a legacy in your family, and that's fine, but it's important to define that, put that on paper, and just have it, be cognizant of what your plans are. It's also you'll come across many quote unquote opportunities or things that seem like opportunities, and it's important to not say no to everything. And something that we like to say is no for now, but not forever, you know, because markets shift, economies shift, things change. So if something I can't pay attention to something now, or maybe a new product or a new vendor, that might change down the road. So you know, obviously we try to be as dedicated and focused on our business as possible, and limiting outside distractions. But you know, maybe no for now, but not forever. Harking back to a little bit ago when we said about opportunities for innovation. In our case, we definitely have seen opportunities for innovation, and especially in this changing market. We'll go over that in the next slide. We have been able to capitalize on alternative revenue streams in terms of mobile ordering, mobile apps. We've done gaming events that increase in-store sales, online events where we, you know, there's an entry fee to gaming. And so it's something that's sort of inherent in the brand, is technology and entertainment, and And that's something that we've been able to capitalize on. That's not just, selling burgers and fries and shakes. So it's important to see opportunities for alternative revenue streams. And then, just to finish off this sort of section, meeting deadlines, meeting milestones, and limiting distractions, and relying on partnerships, and learning to leverage your resources and delegate is always something good. It's mistakes if you don't do that. Christian, anything you'd like to add?
I believe you went through it all. I mean, okay. Yes, we'll focus later on our new strategies and how we are adapting to these new times.
Sounds good. So yeah, as I sort of mentioned a little bit ago, it's important to get into the business DNA and really appreciate the brand, understand the brand that you're taking on, and understand the why. Why does this brand exist? Why do I think I can do it? And why do I want to do it in this particular market? It's really important to wholly believe in the brand, obviously, because if you don't, it's just going to be another job. You might not be excited about growing your brand or taking it into a new market. So it's definitely something that's important. I mean, if you don't have that excitement that you can feel within your being, then it's probably not worth it. I would definitely, guarantee that it's not worth it. So appreciate the brand and appreciate its ability to grow and the rewards and the benefits that it can offer you. So something that our motto is that change is the natural state of business, and that's true even in franchising. You may think that there's an established brand that's been established for 100 years or more, and you're just buying into that franchise, but no, it's constantly changing, and we see that especially in today's market, especially in today's economy. Things change, and you have to be good with that. So things change in franchising all the time. What are we doing right now to manage during these uncertain times is we're doing everything we can to maintain the brand's viability. We're being adaptable, we're being flexible so that we can be sustainable, first and foremost. Obviously, this is something that's going on a global scale, but we have to focus particularly on our market, and obviously Mexico when it comes to us. So regardless, even if we weren't going through a pandemic, there could be anything else, a number of issues going on locally that affect change in the market. So if there wasn't a pandemic, we'd still be dealing with some sort of issue that changes our market, our economy. And as such, we have to be adaptable and flexible in order to be sustainable. What are we doing, particularly in Mexico and CaliBurger as a brand? We have gone the path of virtual kitchens. So we're in effect extending our delivery zones. So we're partnering up with other brands that have unfortunately shut down certain locations where there's unused kitchen space, for example, and we're doing virtual kitchens. So we've trained staff to go into areas where we don't have a brick and mortar store, but it allows us to expand our delivery zones, if you will. We use Uber Eats and we use Rappi in Mexico, which is another food delivery partner, sort of similar to Grubhub, Postmates type thing. But that's something that's helped us maintain afloat, because obviously in Mexico, restaurants are shut down as well. There's no dine-in service currently in large part of Mexico. So we have to rely on delivery. And other things that the brand is doing, they're investing heavily in technology when it comes to contact-free interfaces and transactions. So they've partnered with Panasonic, and they've developed a facial recognition kiosk and also a temperature scanning kiosk where you can pay with your face, essentially. That's in the US now. We are working diligently to take it to Mexico as well. Contactless. We're doing, the brand is also doing food lockers where you place your order via mobile app beforehand. You walk in and scan your face or swipe a certain gesture, certain food, and your food is there in a warm locker, cold locker, depending on what you ordered, and it's there for your taking. There's no contact whatsoever. There's kitchen AI, there's robotics, and there's contactless payment kiosks, among some of the things that the brand is doing in order to really capitalize on the shifting reality, the shifting market that we are experiencing. So anything that can be done in terms of adapting and maintaining the doors open, the lights on, if you will, is good. Christian, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, I mean, that's perfectly, you said it again, perfectly fine. But yes, we are focusing more on virtual kitchens. And usually, well, a big problem arises with COVID-19, but now we are shifting our attention into virtual kitchens. And this could be an opportunity to grow faster than we thought, because we were working on opening brick and mortar stores. And now we are working on virtual kitchens, which it takes a long less investment. So
Yeah.
it's a new opportunity, and we might be growing quicker than we thought.
That's exactly right. So we see this as an opportunity. I mean, even
Yes.
all the doom and gloom of the current status of the world, we see this as an opportunity. And any business venture, it's important to have that sort of mentality. And we'll end with that. I know we went a little bit over our time, but we'll end with, no matter what's going on in the world and what's going on in life, it's important to maintain a strong, abundant mindset, first and foremost, because the road is paved with challenges, potholes, everything that any sort of issue will definitely come your way. We've experienced it ourselves. We continue to experiencing problems and challenges, and we expect to do so in the future as well. But we take it one day at a time. We work hard, and more than anything, we collaborate. We don't try to come up with solutions on our own. And that's what we do, and that's been our humble experience thus far in the franchising world. So with that, I'll turn it back to Ethan and Dida.
So it'll be me taking over for the Q&A part. Hi everyone, I'm Ethan. I'm an assistant project manager with DreamBuilder and Thunderbird for Good. And Luis, Christian, I just have to say thank you. This was amazing, and I see how anyone that watches this or was able to partake today can take a lot of these practices that you've put into CaliBurger, but really put these practices to anything that they do. Any business that you're going through, a lot of the advice that you have, it breaks across all industry, it breaks across all business. And so I just appreciate, the drive and the mindset that the two of you have brought to us with this, and how it can help any new small business owner or large business owner, or managing through these uncertain times and changing markets.
Well, I appreciate that. We appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
If we have any questions come through on Facebook Live, you guys can post your questions in there, and I can get those to Luis and Christian. But right now, I'm going to start with a few questions that I have.
Sure.
And just get some feedback. So I really like that, as well as being the master franchisor, you also are a franchise owner yourselves.
Yes.
And I'm curious if that was a move to help market and get CaliBurger going, or if that's something that you feel like, as the business owners, that's about that pride. That's about what Christian said, he loves the burgers. Like, is it about that, or I don't know if you can just give some insight on that part of it.
Well, yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. We found ourselves in a unique position because, CaliBurger as a brand is still relatively young. It's less than 10 years old globally. So perhaps had we invested in something else that's more established, we wouldn't have been allowed this opportunity. But our initial intent was to be the master franchisors and, build corporate stores, but also sell sub-franchises, which, we were able to do thus far. And so that was our initial intent. But a year and a half later, we saw how the stores themselves were performing. And we thought, well, hey, why don't we spin up a different group, and we ourselves will invest in our own store. We'll act as our sub-franchisee. We set up a whole entity, an LLC in the U.S., the equivalent Mexican equivalent, and essentially invested in our own store. So we saw that because, yes, I mean, it is a sense of pride. We love the brand. I love the burgers too, and we saw an opportunity that we were able to capitalize on. And obviously we had to get approval from corporate, from the master franchisor, us in Mexico, our partners in Mexico, and also Cali Group, which is based in California. We had to get their blessings as well. But we pleaded our case, and we all felt that overall it would be obviously advantageous to the brand to have yet another unit open. So we were able to do so, and that store opened in September of last year. So we're still relatively new sub-franchisees.
That's really awesome. And I think something else that I see that can take away from that is it can drive potential franchisees who want to come to see that you are more than just, the business side of it, the corporate side, the top down. You are really part of it. And so if you're putting yourself in there, then you can see that, oh, maybe that makes me feel safer with my investment into a franchise.
Absolutely, 100%. I mean, it's not just us selling sub franchises. We're actually, we're actually doing the work as well.
Right.
We wholeheartedly believe in the product and the brand. So otherwise we wouldn't have done so.
Yes, I'd like to add also that it's kind of a different business model or project. When you talk about master franchise, you think of a medium to long-term project, and when you talk about a sub-franchise, you think of a short to medium-term project. So I mean that's also something we thought about, and that opportunity to participate in both business models in both terms, it became really interesting to us.
Yeah.
Great. Our initial question, I had some written down before, but I'm gonna talk about this because I see it in the two of you, is that I was curious about, okay, so if I want to buy a franchise and start this business and kind of take that business plan, how do I still be my entrepreneurial spirit in that? And so I've seen how you've done that, but if you can talk a little about how being an entrepreneur at the same time as falling into kind of a business plan that already exists, how you've made that work.
Absolutely. So again, in terms of our case in particular, because the brand is still young and sort of in the process of defining itself, we were able to leverage some of that flexibility. So us as entrepreneurs, especially taking the brand into a different market where it hadn't existed before, we knew that the brand had to be localized and sort of translated, if you will, into something that would be viable in Mexico and the rest of Latin America subsequently. So us as entrepreneurs, we saw that as a challenge that say, hey, we can innovate this brand. We can sort of take the good, the bad, and meld everything in and make it viable in Mexico. So that's something that was a benefit for us. Obviously, we still had to adhere to the overall image of the brand, the standards of the brand, but being entrepreneurs, we were able to take advantage of certain aspects where we could innovate, where we could sort of change or tweak a little things here and there and make some adjustments. So we feel, for us at least, it was a good mixture of both, like being entrepreneurs and sort of, guiding our own ship versus being franchisees, because, I mean, even as a master franchisor in Mexico, we are still franchisees responsible for reporting to the global brand.
Also, I'd like to add, you want to be an entrepreneur, problem solving. So during the process, we, as Luis mentioned, many bumps in the way, but we always found creative ways to go around them and make things happen in the end. So it was pretty close to opening a startup.
Yes.
I hear that. Thanks for sharing that. And kind of going on that, opening a startup that you just said, seeing this shift in technology that you're able to bring and really innovate in this this industry, where I think that a lot of people, we think that, oh, this is food, but this is technology, this is marketing. It's not really, yes, it's burgers at its core, but what kind of surrounds that is so much more. So can you talk about a little bit about how that technology and innovation and how important marketing is, even though the brand name is there, when you're coming into Mexico, South America, a new place for CaliBurger, a new name, is it just, it's also about the quality of the service that you provide, but also that brand that you're creating, and how important are those two things together, or is one more important than the other?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, at its core, you're right. I mean, it's a product that we're selling. It's a burger, and if the food isn't good, then we have an issue. You know, people aren't going to want to come back. But CaliBurger, in and of itself, the founder's passion really is technology. So he developed CaliBurger as sort of a vehicle to enact change within the restaurant industry. How did he do so? Because his plans always were to incorporate technological aspects into the CaliBurger, not just the product, but the experience. So, for example, in our stores, when you walk in, you'll see large gaming video walls, or you'll see gaming centers, which, you know, if you were to walk into, you know, McDonald's, I don't know if they have them now, but, you know, you see those play gyms, those huge jungle gym looking things for kids. Well, we have one, but it's virtual. It's, you know, the play gym of the 21st century, if you will. So you walk in, you can connect to the video walls with your phone with the CaliBurger app and play interactively with other patrons in the restaurant. This big video game that's being displayed on a large screen. So that's something that it enhances the experience of walking into a CaliBurger. In Mexico, we've also organized and held gaming events. So obviously pre-pandemic, they were in our stores where we would have lines of people waiting to come in and play a FIFA tournament or a League of Legends tournament, for example. And that helps increase in-store sales. It builds brand loyalty. People want to come back. And while they're playing and participating in the tournament, of which we offer prizes, they're eating, you know, they're eating the burgers, they're enjoying themselves, and they're having an experience that is highly different than just going in, ordering some food, eating and leaving, you know. So we want this to be an experience. And aside from the entertainment aspects, there's some, you know, backroom stuff that's going on as well in terms of the kitchen. There's Cali Group is developing robotics for the kitchen. Particularly, you know, the menial jobs example, there's a robotic arm that Cali Group has developed. It's called Flippy. It's already in operation in the US, and it mans the grill essentially, you know, because it's a tough job, you know, being over a hot grill all day long, but this ensures consistency and quality in the product. And that's something that sets us apart from somebody else. Obviously, it's meant to be a tool in the kitchen. Because we still have to rely on humans as workers to build a burger, to greet customers, to keep the restaurant clean and whatnot. So it isn't meant to replace, it's only meant to enhance. In addition, we're also developing facial payment recognition systems. Well, they're already deployed in the US, but we're doing the interfaces in order to get those working in Mexico as well. So you know, overall, there's a lot of aspects to the brand which initially, you know, attracted us to the brand that sets it apart from others, which is why we felt this could be something big globally, but particularly in Latin America.
Also, going back to Flippy's debut back in March 2018, it made news all around the world, and it helped a lot with the brand and how we had opened the first store already in Mexico. So it went through the news. I mean, news in Spanish, we're also talking about Flippy, and it was positive. The technology, the application of technology, it becomes in the end also like advertising for the company.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Wow. I like that you highlighted that the addition to the technology in the kitchen is that it's it's not to replace the person, it's to put the person in the role that they're actually better at doing.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a question from the Facebook Live. What do you think is the best way we can help entrepreneurs during difficult times like this? So as, I don't know, maybe giving things like this, or what can CaliBurger try to do, or you as entrepreneurs do to support other entrepreneurs? Or when you say that you partnered with these pop-up kitchens, how have you negotiated those deals to help those smaller businesses and things like that?
Well, yeah, that's a great question, and I appreciate it. So yeah, essentially, us as entrepreneurs, we're open books. I mean, we are glad to share our humble story to anybody, really, and it's all about information sharing, because somebody that wants to potentially get into franchising or buy a franchise, as we mentioned before, it's really important to do the due diligence, and you do that by asking questions, by talking to people. So anybody can feel free to reach out to Christian, reach out to myself, our partners. We'd be happy to share. In terms of partnerships and this virtual kitchens, we were fortunate that, you know, our partners in Mexico, they were established restaurant operators themselves. So it wasn't, although it's unfortunate that one of their brands, they had to shut down. They had we see this as a mutual benefit, where in terms of they had the physical space that was shut down, but we needed. So we obviously negotiated a mutually beneficial deal where we would pay them to use their space, so they would get some sort of revenue from their existing space, and we would be allowed to, you know, continue and increase our sales. So it's just like everything, you know, and being an employee, having a job, thinking outside the box. That's what we did, and that's what we continue to do. And us, how can we help other entrepreneurs, is just by information sharing, and being there, being supportive. Christian, do you have anything to add to that?
We believe that you're doing that here for us in DreamBuilder, so we really appreciate everything that you've told us.
Enough of it. The way we are available. We are available for any questions. You can send an email to us. We would love to collaborate and give you some tips about it. But yes.
Because out of these types of questions, I mean, other opportunities might arise.
Right. So, and that's what you say about that box, is you kind of maybe you think that, oh, you're really good at doing this one thing, but you never know when you talk to someone else where that goes, what happens there.
Absolutely.
Cool. All right, guys, we really appreciate your time. We're at the top of the hour, so we're gonna set you on your way to hopefully open more CaliBurgers. They're still a little far away from the Phoenix area, so maybe if you can bring one closer to the border of Arizona or something, we can get down there and we can have one.
Absolutely.
And
hopefully, yeah,
they might be
a note to all of our dream builders, our graduates who might be on. If you haven't done the survey that's come out, please do the survey. That will put you in a chance to win a new tablet, so you can utilize that tech for your business or yourself. We also have our pitch competition coming up. If you're a dream builder in Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, you can try to pitch at our competition. We have cash prizes, and we'll have some experts that will be donating their time to help you get your business off the ground or point you in a better direction. So without anything else, we really appreciate Luis and Christian, your time, and we hope CaliBurger all the best, and we can't wait to have a burger after seeing all those photos. So really, thank you.
Thank you guys. Thank you very much. We're very
thank you so much.
Very honored to be here. We appreciate it.
Yes.
Thank you.